I was tightening the last screw on my brand new porch when the scream tore through the quiet neighborhood. "What do you think you're doing?" The sound hit me so hard that the drill slipped from my hand. I didn't need to look up. I already knew the voice. Karen. And sure enough, there she was, marching across the sidewalk like she owned the whole block, arms folded, face burning with anger. Her heels clicked against the pavement, each step like a warning shot. "You can't build that!" she snapped, jabbing a finger toward the porch. "HOA rules forbid any exterior additions without board approval. This is illegal!" I forced myself to stand tall. "This is my property," I said slowly, controlling my voice so the neighbors wouldn't hear it crack. "And I checked the records. My house isn't even inside your HOA boundary." Her eyes narrowed. For a second, I thought maybe that would shut her up. Instead, she leaned forward, close enough for me to smell her perfume mixed with rage. "You think a technicality is going to protect you? Sweetheart, we run this neighborhood. If you don't tear it down—" She smiled, a cold, vengeful smile. "We will." Then she straightened, raised her voice so everyone could hear, and shouted, "This porch will be gone in 24 hours, with or without your permission." A wave of whispers rolled through the street. Curtains shifted, phones came up, neighbors recorded everything. Some even stepped onto their lawns, pretending to water plants while they caught every word. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to tell her she was ridiculous, but deep down, something in her tone made my stomach twist. Karen wasn't bluffing. She never bluffed. She had a history. A man 3 houses down once got fined $500 because she claimed his mailbox was too shiny. Another family left after she harassed them over unapproved paint colors, even though their house wasn't part of the HOA either. Karen lived for control, for power, and now her target was me. I bent down, picked up my drill, and forced myself to look busy, even as my mind raced. The porch was nearly done. Just a few finishing touches left. It had taken me months of planning and saving, not to mention countless weekends of sweat. It wasn't just wood and nails. It was the dream of sitting outside with my family, drinking coffee in the morning, finally enjoying my home the way I wanted. And now, Karen wanted to rip it away. She turned to leave, but halfway down the sidewalk, she spun back around and pointed at me with that same shaking finger. "Get ready," she hissed. "Tomorrow, I'm bringing a crew, and we'll tear it down ourselves." Her voice carried, bouncing off houses. Gasps came from a small crowd of neighbors who had gathered at the corner. Some looked sympathetic, others excited. Drama was better than TV for them. I felt my jaw tighten. Part of me wanted to shout back, to tell her she'd regret it. But another part of me stayed quiet, because if she really meant what she said, I'd need every ounce of energy to be ready for it. She stormed off, heels stabbing into the pavement like gunshots. I watched her disappear into her house, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. The street slowly emptied, neighbors retreating to their homes with their little videos and whispers. When the last one was gone, I finally sat on the edge of my unfinished porch. My hands trembled as I stared at the boards, at the work I had poured into them. She was going to try. She was really going to try, and I couldn't let her. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the house, every shadow outside the window made me think Karen had already come. My phone buzzed with texts from neighbors, some warning me, some encouraging me, some just curious about the show tomorrow. At midnight, I went outside, porch lights casting long shadows across the wood. I touched the railing, the smell of fresh lumber still sharp in the air. This wasn't just a project. It was mine. And then the thought hit me.
If she really showed up tomorrow, it wouldn't just be her. Karen never fought alone. She'd bring the HOA board, maybe even hired muscle, maybe even pretend inspectors like she'd done to others. She wanted a war, and standing there in the cold silence of midnight, I promised myself one thing. If Karen came for me tomorrow, I'd be ready. The morning came with a knot in my stomach. I stepped onto the porch, half expecting to see Karen marching up my driveway with a wrecking crew. But the street was quiet. Too quiet. I thought maybe she'd backed off. Maybe last night's performance was just one of her usual scare tactics. But when I opened my mailbox, my heart sank. 5 envelopes, all stamped with the HOA logo. The first was a notice of violation. The second was a cease and desist. By the third, they were already fining me $200 a day until I removed the porch. The fourth threatened legal action. The fifth, that one chilled me the most.
It wasn't a form letter. It was handwritten, scrawled in all caps. Tear it down or we will. My fist tightened around the paper. I looked across the street, and there she was. Karen, standing at her window, sipping coffee, staring right at me, smiling. I wanted to march over there and confront her, but I knew that's what she wanted. So instead, I pulled out my phone and started taking photos of the letters. Evidence. By noon, the neighborhood buzz had grown louder. Every time I stepped outside, I felt eyes on me. Whispers followed me. Kids on bikes slowed down to watch. Even the mailman gave me a strange look as he dropped off another letter. Another violation. Then around 3 in the afternoon, it happened. A black SUV rolled into the neighborhood and stopped in front of my house. 2 men stepped out in cheap suits, holding clipboards. They looked official. They wanted to look official. Karen appeared instantly, like she'd been waiting for her cue. She strutted over to the SUV, shaking hands with the men as if she'd summoned them personally. One of them turned to me. "Sir, we're here on behalf of the HOA to inspect your property." I stared at their fake badges, my pulse quickening. "County inspectors don't drive unmarked SUVs," I said flatly. "Show me a warrant. Show me anything that proves you have authority." The taller one shifted uncomfortably. Karen jumped in before he could speak. "He doesn't have to show you anything," she shrieked. "These men have the right to tear that porch down today if they want." Neighbors poured out of their houses again, gathering at the sidewalks, phones recording. It was a show now, and Karen loved an audience. I pulled my phone from my pocket, held it up, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "For the record, these are not licensed inspectors. If they step 1 foot on my property, it's trespassing." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The fake inspectors froze. Even Karen's smirk faltered for a split second. Then her face twisted into rage. "You think you're smart, don't you?" she shouted. "You think you can embarrass me in front of everyone?" She stepped closer, her voice cracking with fury. "This porch will be gone. Do you hear me? Gone." The men climbed back into their SUV, clearly spooked by the cameras, but Karen stayed. She leaned in, her voice low and venomous. "Just for me. Tomorrow, noon, we're bringing tools, hammers, saws, and we'll do it ourselves." Her words hit me like a hammer. She wasn't bluffing. Not this time. And as she stormed off again, the neighbors buzzing louder than ever, I realized something terrifying. Tomorrow wouldn't just be another argument. It would be a battle. The next day, I woke up before the sun. My stomach churned as I sat on the porch steps, coffee going cold in my hand. Every creak of the street made me flinch. Every passing car made my chest tighten. By 11:30, I knew she was coming. The sound started small, a dull rumble, then louder. By noon, 3 pickup trucks rolled into the street and parked right in front of my house. The doors swung open,
and out they came, Karen first, of course, striding like a queen leading her army. Behind her, 5 men with tool belts slung around their waists, hammers and crowbars in hand. 2 HOA board members carried clipboards, pretending this was some official operation. Neighbors crowded the sidewalks again, some whispering, some recording, some practically cheering. The whole block felt like an arena, and Karen was ready to make her grand show. She planted herself in the center of my lawn, pointed at the porch, and shouted, "All right, boys, tear it down." The men stepped forward, but I moved faster. I jumped onto the porch, blocking their path, holding my phone up high. "Step 1 foot closer, and you're trespassing. I'm calling the police right now." Karen's face twisted with delight, as though this was exactly what she wanted. "Good," she snapped. "Call them. Let's see whose side they take." I hit dial, speaker on so everyone could hear. My voice shook as I told dispatch that people were about to destroy my property. Minutes later, the wail of sirens cut through the air. The crowd shifted, some gasping, some pulling back, but Karen didn't budge. She only smiled wider. "Perfect timing," she said under her breath. 2 police cruisers pulled up, lights flashing. Officers stepped out, hands resting on their belts. The crowd hushed. This was it. I pointed at Karen, my voice rising. "They're trespassing. They threatened to destroy my property." Karen cut me off instantly, waving her arms dramatically. "He's lying. This is an illegal structure. We're here to enforce HOA rules. He's the criminal." The officers exchanged a look. One of them approached me. "Sir, do you have proof your property isn't under this HOA's jurisdiction?" My chest tightened. Proof? Of course I had proof. County records, documents, but they were inside the house.
"Not here. Not in my hands." Karen smirked, sensing the shift. "See? He can't prove anything. Tear it down!" The men stepped forward again, gripping their tools tighter. The neighbors murmured, phones recording every second. My heart pounded as I scrambled for words. "You can't let them do this! It's illegal!" The officer raised a hand. "Calm down. This is a civil dispute. We can't stop them if they're following HOA orders." The words slammed into me like a punch. Civil dispute. They weren't going to stop her. Karen threw back her head and laughed. A shrill, triumphant sound. "You hear that? Even the police won't save you!" She turned to her crew, eyes blazing with victory. "Tear it down." The men moved toward the porch again, and this time I felt real panic. My porch, my dream. It was about to be ripped apart in front of the entire neighborhood. And then, just as the first hammer was raised, I did the only thing I could. I lifted my phone, pressed record, and shouted loud enough for every camera, every neighbor, and every cop to hear. "If you touch one board of this porch, I'll take every one of you to court, and I'll win." The hammer froze midair. The men hesitated. The crowd murmured louder. Even the officers paused. Karen's smile vanished. For the first time she looked uncertain, but then her eyes narrowed again. She leaned forward, her voice dripping with venom. "This isn't over. Tomorrow we're coming back, and when we do, nothing will stop us." She spun on her heel, barking at the men to retreat. The trucks revved up, pulling away. The crowd buzzed with whispers. The police shrugged, and Karen disappeared into her house. I stood there on the porch, breathless, hands shaking, knowing only one thing. Tomorrow, the real war would begin. That night, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, Karen's smirk flashed. Her shrill laugh echoed, and I pictured my porch collapsing under a hammer. Panic wouldn't save me. If she'd declared war, I needed ammo. I dug out everything, property deeds, county maps, zoning records, line by line until my eyes burned. And then, proof. My home sat outside the HOA boundary. No jurisdiction. None. I wasn't just building a porch. I was building a case. Next morning, I installed cameras. 2 on the porch, 1 hidden in the bushes. My phone became a recorder. Every word Karen spoke would be mine to keep. Right on cue,
At noon, she returned. Alone this time, heels stabbing the concrete, face twisted with fury. "You embarrassed me yesterday," she hissed. "You think you're clever? You're not. You're dead. That porch is coming down." I raised my phone, red light blinking. "Say that again for the camera." She glared at the phone, but didn't back off. "I'll tear it down myself if I have to." Perfect. Caught on tape. That evening, I called the state attorney general's office, not the police. I explained everything: harassment, threats, fake inspectors. Sent them the video. The voice on the other end sharpened. "If what you're saying is true, your HOA is acting outside its jurisdiction. Keep recording. We'll be in touch." For the first time in days, I felt hope, but it didn't last. The next evening, while reviewing footage, her voice cut through the air. "You think you're safe now?" I looked up. Karen stood on the sidewalk, pale, twitching with rage. "I know what you're doing," she spat. "You called someone." "Who was it? The county? The state?" My heart skipped. How did she know? She stepped closer, her voice low. "You have no idea who you're messing with. You think this is about a porch?" Her eyes burned into mine. "Tomorrow you'll wish you never moved here." Then she stormed off into the night. For the first time, I wasn't scared of losing the porch. I was scared of her. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of voices outside. Not just one or two, an entire crowd. I pulled back the curtain and froze. Karen had returned, but this time she wasn't alone. 3 HOA board members stood behind her, clipboards in hand, their smug faces lined with fake authority. A group of neighbors hovered nearby, whispering, curious, enjoying the spectacle. And, just when I thought it couldn't get worse, there was a local news van parked on the curb. A cameraman was already setting up, pointing his lens toward my house. Karen was smiling again. That same cruel smile she wore like armor. She wanted an audience. I stepped outside, phone in my pocket, recording every second. "Here he is," Karen announced loudly, her voice dripping with mockery. "The man who thinks he can build illegal structures and ignore community rules. Today, we're showing the truth." The reporter stepped forward. "Sir, the HOA claims your porch violates safety codes and neighborhood standards. Do you have a response?" I could feel dozens of eyes on me. Karen's smirk widened. She thought she had me cornered.
I took a slow breath and reached into my pocket. "I do have a response," I said, voice steady. "But the camera should see this first." I held up my phone. The screen glowed. Yesterday's recording played. Karen's voice, shrill and venomous. "I'll tear it down myself." Silence. The cameraman zoomed in. Neighbors gasped, whispering. Karen's smile cracked. "That's out of context," she snapped. "He edited that." "It's fake." I wasn't done. Out came a second file. County records, bold letters screaming the truth. My property was outside HOA jurisdiction. No authority. No control. I handed it to the reporter. "Everything they've done is harassment, and I've reported it to the state." The crowd erupted. Gasps, murmurs, even laughter. The board stiffened. Clipboards useless. Karen's face went scarlet. She lunged forward, eyes wild. "You think this makes you safe?" she screamed. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." The mic caught every word. The camera caught every twitch. Karen wasn't just losing control. She was destroying herself on live footage. Then her eyes shifted. She pointed at me, finger trembling, and barked at someone unseen. "Do it! Now!" Heavy footsteps thundered from around the corner. 3 large men in black jackets appeared, faces hard, eyes locked on me. Karen's smirk returned. This wasn't HOA business anymore. This was something darker. The crowd scattered as 3 men in black jackets advanced. Sharp, deliberate. Not neighbors. Not police. Muscle. Karen's voice rang out, desperate but triumphant. "Take him off the property. He doesn't belong here." Phones came out. The cameraman froze. Neighbors whispered. I didn't move. Before you take another step, I said, raising my phone, maybe you should know who you're working for. The men hesitated. Enough. The live stream icon glowed, hundreds already watching, every word, every move. Then I pulled my last card, a letter stamped by the state attorney general. Their words were clear. The HOA has no authority. Any removal attempt is criminal. The crowd gasped. The men faltered. Karen snapped, voice breaking. He's bluffing! Do it! But then, sirens. Real ones. A squad car rolled in, red and blue flashing. Ma'am, the officer cut her off. We've reviewed the live feed. You're done. The men melted away. Karen stood alone, trembling. As cameras zoomed in, the officer's voice sealed it. You're under investigation for harassment and intimidation. Karen broke, covering her face, shoulders shaking. And as they led her to the car, the last image burned into memory. Her pink pant coat, glowing under the flashing lights. No longer power, just humiliation.